Hey there, this is Manuel, and today I want to talk about a very common problem that we chess players have, which is to know when we have to defend and when we have to attack. So please let me know in the comments if you face these problems in your games, because it's a very common question. And let me start with a very popular position to illustrate this idea. If I play the move e4, which is the king's pawn game, then if black plays the move e5, after knight to f3, we attack the pawn on e5. And after the move knight to c6, we have this move bishop to b5, which is very common. White has other ideas, but bishop to b5 is a very common move. And we get what we call the Spanish game, or the Ruy Lopez. And here, normally the idea that white has is to take on c6 and then take the pawn on e5. This is one of the main ideas. So here, if we think about that idea, then we would try to defend this pawn on e5. So here we would play the move d6. And d6 is a defensive move. d6 is the most natural way to defend the pawn on e5. And it's a good move, it's not a bad move. But actually here, if we think in terms of attack, then we could play other moves. Here we could play the move knight to f6, which attacks the pawn on e4, and this is a perfectly playable option. And we might also play the move a6, because in this case, if we see a bit further, after taking on c6 and taking on c6 with the pawn, then if white tries to continue with the plan of taking on e5, then here black would have the move queen to d4, which basically gets the pawn back, because we have a double attack, and gives black a great position. So in fact, after bishop to b5, here black has lots of moves, and the most popular move is an attacking move, which is the move a6. Also knight to f6 is very common, and actually the defensive move d6 is less popular than the active attacking moves. So we can already see that attacking moves definitely should be considered in addition to defensive moves. Let's take a look at another position. Here it is white to play, and white is a very strong player, is a former world champion, Vladimir Kramnik. Black just played the move b6, and black is attacking this pawn on c5. So here the first reaction might be to do something with the pawn, such as taking on b6, or maybe defending the pawn with the move rook to c1, or maybe even push the pawn because the pawn is attacked. This is a natural reaction, but it is probably not the best reaction, because attacking moves are normally stronger if they are good, because we put pressure on the opponent. That's why here we should consider other ideas, and here Kramnik played the very strong move d6. So instead of taking care of the threat, white is attacking. Let me briefly say that if white takes on b6, then black would take back with the c pawn, for example, and then now black will have some squares for the knight. The knight on a6 can come to c5, the knight on f7 can come to d6, and at least black has a playable position. So here after the move d6, first of all we're attacking the queen. So if black takes on d6, then here we have this trick that we can take this pawn on b6. And after taking on b6, then we basically got the pawn back, and we see that we have very active bishops, and we are already attacking a rook, so here white has a better position. And in fact, this is the way black should have played, because black played the move queen to d7 instead of taking on d6. Here after queen to d7, then now Kramnik took on b6, but here we see the difference that after the move d6, this bishop will get a lot of activity. And here actually black continued with the move queen to a6, but after taking on a7, here we see that white is a pawn up. White has better pieces and this pawn is very strong, so white won very quickly. I just want to briefly see another line, which is taking on b6, which was much more logical. And after bishop to c6, for example, here we are attacking the queen and the rook. And the only way for black to prevent losing material is to play the move queen to c8, because now white cannot take the rook because this queen is pinned. And here again, we should analyze the position. So the normal reaction would be to defend, to break the pin, or to defend the bishop, for example, with the move rook to c1. And here we are attacking the rook. And this move is not bad. White already has a solid advantage. But here, if we use this principle of checking attacking moves first, we see that white has a very strong move, which is bishop takes f6. Because here we see that after taking on f6, the rook can play on the d file. And here, okay, we are attacking this rook. And if we take this bishop, which is the most logical move, here we have the move d7 with a double attack on the queen and the rook. This principle is quite universal, so we have this position. The natural reaction might be to defend, but first we can check attacking moves to see if they work. Let's see another position. Here it is white to play, and we see that black is attacking this pawn. Black has a very active rook, so black is definitely pushing here. The natural reaction would be to play rook to b1. But here black can continue with queen to e6. Black is more active. Black is putting pressure here. So we can consider alternatives. So here white can play the move rook to c1, with the idea that after taking on b2 we have this check, and after king e6 we take back on a7. Now we defend this pawn. We are even attacking this pawn. So we see that white implemented an active defense. Now here, instead of taking on b2, black might try other ideas, like for example moving this pawn, so that now white will not take this pawn after playing rook c7 check. And this is quite a very interesting try. And again, if we use this logic, the first reaction would be to try to defend this pawn, but again black is more active, so we need to try to find active ideas to simplify the position. That's why here white can try the move b4, which is an idea, defensive idea, to exchange pawns and try to hold the position. This is actually a very interesting position because sometimes pure defensive moves can be good, sometimes attacking moves can be good, but sometimes neither of them can be good, because here rook to b1 is a bit passive, but also the active rook c7, and after taking here, then here black would take on b2, and we can see that these pawns are probably going to be faster than these three pawns. So black has more active pieces, and here actually black is definitely pushing. Attacking is generally the most common strategy to win a game, so whenever we can do it, whenever it's good, definitely we should try it before defensive moves. So that's why even when having defensive position, try to find an active way to defend, such as counter-attacking. And only when you don't see any other good alternatives, then you can play defensive moves. So I hope that you can use these ideas in your games, and feel free to subscribe to get notified whenever I upload a new video. That's it for now, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.